Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Look, I got a fresh new do. I'm ready to rock. I got a couple of things I want to talk about today, but today's video will be primarily about my very first flip. What it took, the actual numbers, the ups, the downs, what to look out for. So stick around. So there she is. Isn't she a beauty? My very first flip. There's the front and the back. It was a labor of love, let me tell you. Okay, so that's the first house that I ever bought with the intention on flipping it. And here's how it went down. So somebody actually approached me about them selling their property. Being in the mortgage industry, there are people that come up to me and will say, listen, I'm selling my house. Know anybody who wants to buy it? Know any realtors that want to list it? So when I look at their property, I kind of look at is there an opportunity for me to buy a property and flip it? And at the time, I was just sort of getting into the game. I was very nervous, but I did have, I'll call it the guts, to just jump and hope for the best. So now I got to do this with my brother, which is in itself was amazing. So we basically found this property and they were going to sell it. They had to sell it, but I'm going to say it was in rough shape. And when I say rough shape, I'm going to say it wasn't habitable. So I wasn't really sure what that meant till I got there, but when I got there, it was a disaster. It smelled like death. Like literally it smelled like something had crawled in the house and died. And more on that in a minute because it was actually pretty close to the truth. So this house was pretty cool because they were going to sell it, they're going to list it, and we got some creative financing with the seller as far as how to get a cheaper price on the property. But I'm going to go over the numbers with you real quick. Here's how the numbers looked. Okay, so we paid $159,900 for this property. That was the purchase price. Keep in mind it wasn't listed, so there's more on that in a little bit. We got a little bit creative with the seller in that regard. Closing costs, $3,000. That's your land transfer tax here in Ontario, legal fees, etc. The down payment that we needed for this property with the lender that we had was 25%. So that came to $39,975. Okay, so right now we've got that total amount invested. The mortgage, taxes, hydro, gas, water was about $1,200 a month. We held this property for 6 months from the day we bought it to the day we sold it. Done. That's $7,200 in upkeep costs. The cost to renovate this property was $38,000. Okay? So when we add the total amount we've got in, plus the closing costs, plus the down payment, we're now into about $88,175 of a total investment into this property. Here are a few of the photos that I took. I had a BlackBerry at the beginning, so I didn't get a ton of great photos when we were down to studs, but take a look at these photos here. Just a couple of things that we did. You'll notice in one of the photos here I've got, if you look at the back door, where that black garbage bag pail used to be, that used to be the kitchen. So that small little area was the kitchen. And to the left of that, there was a wall, and that was a dining room or a bedroom. I think it was used as a bedroom. And in front of that, we can see the hardwood. There's actually a vent in the middle of the floor. There used to be a wall there as well. So you just had a doorway into that kitchen from the dining room, the family room there, and that was it. So you can see we put a header across, boxed in that large column, and took the wall out on the other side. You can actually see the floor joists in one of those photos there. And so it was a ton of work. We ripped it out, made it really wide open. Here's a few other photos I want to show you as well. Just a couple of random photos. You got this one here of the upstairs, the bathroom, a couple of the stairwell. And here's where it gets really interesting, the basement. Okay, the basement. So the basement was a bit of a chore, and I'll tell you why. If you don't know what you're doing and you just start ripping up floor tiles, someone may come and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, that's asbestos. And I don't know if you know what asbestos is, but it ain't good. So you shouldn't be messing with anything asbestos. You should have like a remediation crew come in and remove the asbestos in like hazmat suits. So I removed it like this, but because I didn't know any better. So I'm removing the asbestos as best as I could. That was pretty clever. I just thought of that. So I had to be aware of that fact that there was asbestos. I didn't realize that. And sometimes those older houses, they've got piping that's wrapped in asbestos wrap too, which again, I didn't know and wasn't aware of. We were able to get all those tiles out of there, but I'm going to show you a few extra photos here. As you can see, the basement, we ripped it down to complete studs. So it is dingy, it is dark, it is a bit, smells awful. And about that smell, it turns out when my HVAC guy was messing around with the furnace, turns out it smelled of death because there was a dead cat that was in the furnace, right in the plenum, like right at the very start of the furnace, right by the filter. I guess it had gone there to die and live there. And that's what that smell was. It was putrid. It was gross. And he sent me a photo, which I can't unsee it. And it was gross. But listen, here's the thing. When you're flipping houses, bad smells are actually okay. When I smell urine or cigarette smoke or, I don't know, dead cat in the furnace, I smell money, because that means that many people are passing on it. And that means that you can take that, probably get a really good deal on it, and get rid of that smell by ripping up the drywall, etc., the mold, and refresh it. And that, to me, dead cat and urine smells like money to me. Side note. So in any event, here's some more photos. And this is where the restoration becomes more apparent. It starts to look, and you can see the end result. It's really neat. The basement here, as you can see, the basement's starting to get drywalled, and it's starting to come together. You're starting to see the space as it's meant to be seen, as far as just seeing through walls. Now you're seeing the size of rooms. And if we go upstairs, now you're going to start seeing us putting down some hardwood, and it's starting to really look like a house. And as the hardwood goes down, you start seeing it, all the rooms come together. And here are a few of the finishing photos of the property and now you can see the before and the after, and it really came together, and we were very, very happy with the color we picked. It was like a light white, light yellow, kept it airy, kept it nice. We changed the doors in the back, we put the trim down, and it really came together. And these are the finishing photos, and we were really, really happy with it. The upstairs photos, here are a few of the downstairs. I think the downstairs was one of the best transformations, because it was such a dungeon down there, and you weren't able to use it. We actually put a full bedroom downstairs and a family room, so there's more space, made the house much bigger because of more living space. The colors, again, are light and bright. The carpet had a very good underpad, so it was more comfortable being in a basement. There were some windows down there. We changed the windows, of course, in the entire house. But you can see the photos just make the basement look inviting. Those are a few of the photos that I end up taking. Again, I didn't have the foresight to think that I would be on a YouTube channel, 10, 12 years later. But I did keep some photos, thankfully, to show you guys the transformation that can happen. And again, it was my first flip. There were things I didn't know about. I didn't know we'd have to move all the HVAC. I didn't know we'd have to replace most of the windows. I didn't know that we'd be replacing plumbing, and the cost of replacing plumbing and moving it through the joists, and certain joists you can't cut through. So if I want to move plumbing, someplace I just can't put it unless I rip it all out and start again. And even then, it becomes difficult. So some of the choices are made for you. Some of your design choices are made for you, because some of the things just aren't feasible. So even the outside, we did some siding, we did some decking out back and out front. We basically did this thing from start to finish. And again, this is 10, 12 years ago. So the prices were lower. Even the cost to reno was much lower. So prices have gone up quite a bit. And I also want to point out, when I bought this property, we bought it with technically zero down. Now, there's so much confusion on zero down, what that means. We actually have a down payment. So you're not putting zero down, but it's zero money out of my bank account. And here's how we did that. Because we needed $39,000 for the down payment and closing costs, and because I already own another property, I was able to leverage that property to be able to put money down on this property. So what does that mean? So basically, I had another property that I could use to leverage, to borrow funds to put as a down payment. So the other property had about $150,000 worth of equity in the property. So I was able to get a private investor to loan me $42,000 secured on that property, which I then used to put down onto this property. So now those rates are a little bit higher. So I think they're maybe around 10%. So I think it costs us around, $350 a month roughly for those funds, which in my closing numbers on the way out, I'll show you. So now this is going to bring us back into the full scale of the numbers that we talked about at the beginning of the video. We know what we put into it, about $88,000. We know what we paid for the property. So here are some numbers on the way out to show the profit. Okay, so here's the numbers. We sold this property for $239 grand. Less the cost we paid for it, $159.9 equals $79,100 in profit. Well, not quite. So we have to take away our $38,000 in renovation costs, take away our $7,200 in our upkeep, our mortgage, taxes, and utilities. That leaves us with $33,900 profit. Not exactly. Remember, we borrowed that money for our down payment on the other property that we owned. So that was $270 a month times 6 months. That's $1,620 that we owed. Now, of course, when we sold the property, we needed to use a realtor, so we had to pay realtor fees of around $10,000. Less the $3,000 legal fees we paid on the way in, and another $1,000 in legal fees on the way out. That leaves us with around $18,280. Now, here's where it gets a bit creative. Remember, I had mentioned that we had made a deal with the seller. The seller ended up going privately, and he ended up saving around $8,000 in real estate fees. Well, we had said to him, listen, if you list it, it could take a few months. It could sell right away. It's up to you entirely. But if we want to buy this property, we're gonna less the real estate fees you would have paid. So you net out the exact same had you had sold this property for $159.9 and paid your real estate fees. So he agreed to credit us that money on closing when we purchased the property. So that was $8,000 that we add back to our total profit, which makes us a complete overall profit of $26,280, which is not too shabby for my very first flip and sort of learning as I go. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are the real raw numbers from my very, very first flip, which I think was about 11 years ago. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I know I enjoyed making it. I got to relive my very, very first flip. I haven't looked at those photos in quite a while. And personally, for me, I enjoyed going through that again. I got to kind of relive that moment that I made my first flip with my big brother, who sadly isn't here anymore. So I like to go and relive those moments that we had together. It was a really, really cool trip for me to go on. So guys, listen, if you enjoyed this video, if you got some value, please hit that like button. Also, hit the subscribe button. Hit the little notification button too, because when I post my next video, I'm going to hopefully show another flip, another project, and the real numbers. Not the fake numbers you see on TV, the real costs and the real profits. So guys, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon.